All right, guys, welcome to the pod number 2. Jeez, the pod. How fucking cringy was that? Sorry, I didn't mean to fucking do that shit. Sometimes I'm new to this. All right, guys, come on, give me a break. Jeez. Anyways, back into a little bit of goals. This video is going to be another video about goals and kind of getting everything set up. Kind of like make sure the camera. Last time the camera was a little blurry and the audio wasn't the best, so that's kind of like what we're trying to work on right now. Before I get some guests on. And I don't want to have really too many technical difficulties while they're coming on and having a conversation, and then we just botch a 2-hour combo. So I just want to release a couple videos where it's just me bullshitting until I can get the mics set up really well. The camera's straight, but I want it to be a little bit further back so that way you can get like head all the way to the feet. Because I want to show you all my shoes. These are dope ass shoes. The Prestos, I always wear these. They're pretty cool. They're my go-tos. Like when they're my go-tos when I'm like, okay, I want to wear something that's like unique because I don't see too many people with these ones. Actually, I've never seen anyone with these. Anyways, point is, tangents. Side note, not tangents. Side notes. Let's go back to the reason why we're doing this. So audio quality, video quality didn't look bad, and I actually liked it a lot. As well as a couple goals that I had in mind, which one of the biggest ones that I have for this podcast, the entirety of this podcast. I have a couple goals that I'll actually read to you guys that I've kind of laid out and kind of it's not necessarily that I'm being transparent. It's more so like, sorry, let me get a little more comfortable. I was like fucking way slouched on that. Not that I'm being transparent or not. It's more so like just kind of sharing my ideas, right? And that's what this fucking day's going to be about. Holy shit, get to the point, Hayden. Fuck, welcome. Welcome, everybody. My point about one of the goals I have with the podcast is I want to go straight into the podcast. Nowadays, you have to skip through 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 45 seconds to get to the information that you're looking for. And sometimes, depending on what it is, you have to skip all the way through a 5-minute video to finally get the answer of what it is that you're looking for. So one of my biggest goals, I hate that. I am not a fan of that. I get it. Like most of our society has a tiny fucking attention span that not saying you, I'm saying that a lot of people can't get through the first 15 seconds of this video without saying like, where's the clickbait? Where's the flashes? Where's the audio? Where's the tone? Where's this and this and this? Because we have such a TikTok brained society, and that's not my goal of content. I don't want to have a 15 seconds, 15 seconds, 15 seconds, 15 seconds. I want a long conversation that I explained last time that has depth to it, that has purpose, has meaning, and it's patience. Right? Enjoy, let the conversation develop, because one of the best things that I love to feel when I watch a podcast is, and compare it to social media or compare it to something that, I guess social media is a good example comparing to podcasts, because on social media, you might get a 15 to 30 second clip. And it kind of gives you that really quick dopamine release where you're like, whoa. I love that point. Next. And then you're doing that. You're like, next. And then your dopamine's like, whoop. You just fucking keep dopamine spiking yourself. Or, hear me out. You listen to this entire podcast, and for 2 hours, and I'm not saying 2 hours consecutively, right? I can watch a podcast for 2 hours consecutively and follow along and be very intrigued in the entire conversation. Maybe in that conversation, I don't even like what they're talking about, or I don't agree with what they're talking about, but that's also what gets me involved in the conversation, or gets involved in their conversation, because I'm just listening and be like, well, I wouldn't say that if I was on the podcast. I don't agree with that perspective, whatever. But the point is you're just listening to somebody else's perspective for more than 15 seconds. You're getting the entire bit of information, the entire amount of context behind what they just said, versus on TikTok or Instagram or X, whatever you're watching these videos on. if you get a 15-second clip, it's just a spike. It's just, there's no context behind it other than like, yeah, I like what he said. Then you watch a 2-hour video where he developed, like he or whoever the speaker is that they're having this conversation about, that conversation develops all the way till 2 hours later, and that point just hits so much harder. It was just like the end of a movie, right? If you were only to see the end of the movie, that's a good scene, and that's the only scene you saw, you'd be like, wow, that's a good scene. But imagine seeing all of the events leading up to that point. You have all this context of why this scene is happening. And so it makes the scene even more I don't know if emotional is the sense. I mean, emotional is one of the words, but I'm saying it just gives you so much more context. And for me, that's what I like. I like developed context, not small, simple clips, click, 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 and that's not the target audience that I want. So with that, that's where my goal is, to just hop straight into the podcast every time. When I have somebody on, it's going to be like, hey, introduce yourself. I was kind of thinking, and of course, I'm in the testing stage, right? So this is kind of what I was thinking, is having this person, the only script that I want to have for somebody to come in and have a conversation, or like the script for somebody to have prepared before they come in, is almost like bringing in a resume for themselves, but not like a work resume. It's like, hey, give the audience a simple, I mean, not restricted, it can go as long as you want it to be, but just a simple background of who you are. So that way, the audience kind of knows a little bit about you, and a little bit like, it's not like someone just came on and it's just a face. It's like, okay, who's this person? Why? Like, what is their background? Who are they? What do they do for a living? Blah, blah, blah. Simple resume about yourself. And then we elaborate deeper into the next conversation after that, right? But that's the only thing where I want on this podcast to be somewhat scripted. And it's not necessarily that I want the script. It's more so that I want for this person to be able to explain who they are. That way, if they say something that really intrigues me, say this person joined the military. That's like, I'll have a lot of my buddies on the military on here. Or somebody that wasn't my buddy while they were in the military. Oh, what did you do? And then you just go on, have a long conversation about what they did. And that's kind of, again, like I said, I want long conversations and in-depth conversations, understanding, blah, 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 because that's the point of this fucking podcast. That's what I like to hear or listen to and have conversations about. All right, real quick. Special shout out to Zal. I'm not getting sponsored or anything like that. However, these are my favorite energy drinks. Zal. Let me see. They're not that bad. Let's see. The only one that I know, let's see. All right, carbonated water, citric acid, natural flavors. Third, that's bad. Natural flavors are bad. So as I say, natural flavors are bad, I drink it. And then I got my water. All right. However, so that's kind of, because I want to go over my goals. I have a little notebook over there I'll grab here in a second. So that's my goal into the intro, is being able to allow to not have a 15-second, 30-second segment. Let's go straight into it. And then as well as when the guest comes on, it's straight into who the guest is. And that's the only part of this that I kind of want somewhat scripted. And then after that, it's back to that. Take the camera out of the situation. It's me and you having a conversation that's about you. And then something that maybe you have a question about me, I have a question about you, and just elaborate and go from there. That's the goal, right? So now that we're talking about goals, give me 1 second. So this is This is my little notebook that I got last night or the other night. And let me grab some water. Sorry. See, this is where if you don't have the patience to listen to this and wait for it to develop, you're not the audience I'm looking for. Just letting you know. Why? Because if this is too slow for you, I'm not going to be producing any kind of crazy fast-paced content. I would want you to want to have a slower paced content or the ability to listen to slower paced content if you don't normally do that. Because personally, I hated it at first. But what will happen is over time, you'll develop the patience and basically your mind can follow a longer conversation without an immediate hit of dopamine to watch or listen to this podcast. And I'm not saying do it with me. Maybe what my content produces isn't what you want to watch either. So I'm not trying to force it upon you to be like, hey, suffer through something you don't want to watch. However, there might be another podcast that you could watch that moves slow, that would help you, whether that's in some type of goal that you want to do, or just simply brain development and patience. And I emphasize on patience a lot, because once you can gain that skill, because patience is a skill, once you can gain that skill of patience and you can apply it to listening to a podcast, what you'll find is maybe the podcast that you didn't like because you didn't have enough patience to let that podcast develop might actually be the podcast you needed to listen to grow yourself or do whatever it is that you're trying to do. Examples like listening to a business podcast. Can you listen to a business podcast for 4 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is, without being like, holy shit, I'm ready for bed? I don't know, like a communications podcast. I really like communications. This communication skill, that's another skill. Being able to relay your message. And it's one of my favorite, tangent real quick, one of my favorite college classes that was super simple, an easy class. It's like like elective or whatever it's called, was communications. And that shit was so simple. But now that there's words and definitions to simple communication that I'm aware of before somebody before somebody taught it to me in this class, like we're all aware of these things. But now putting words to what they mean, I was like, oh shit, definitions and things like that. So, right, in basic, I'm not a teacher when it comes to communications, but simply put, you have a sender and a receiver, and then you have a code. So the sender sends the code to the receiver, and the receiver has to decipher that code. And then after they decipher that code they send back a message to the receiver, and then they have to send a code to the receiver. So then the receiver has to decipher that code. So if I'm the sender and I send a code to the receiver, and that code gets deciphered the wrong way, it's my fault for sending the wrong code. So if you're having a conversation with somebody and they're not answering the way that you want them to answer, or they're misinterpreting what you're saying, because I'm not saying there's no such thing as perfection, right? It's not like necessarily that if they don't answer the way you want them to answer, that you're just asking it wrong, because maybe they just disagree with you or something like that. But the point is, most of the time, you should be able to get this person to understand and get the response and reaction that you want them to have, as long as you send that message, that code, to them for them to decipher it, to understand it the way you meant it to be said. And then they have to send that message back to you. And that message they have to send back to you is the same exact way. They have to be able to send it in a way that they are wanting to hear, like they want me to say something that they want to hear, right? And so that's like what communication is. And once I like looked at that differently, it was a huge help on my relationship. Because there's a lot of times, right, where you get in an argument with your wife or possibly your husband, and it's like it gets lost in context that I'm not here arguing about you. I'm trying to tell you something that I need from you, or I want you to change for me, that I don't feel like you're doing this for me, or you're doing something that would help me, kind of thing. So if you're trying to get them to change something that would help you, don't go and tell them, hey, you need to change this. Because then now their guard is already up and they're very defensive. All right. Anyways, enough about, I don't want to tangent about fucking relationship advice. God damn it. Sorry. Anyways, the point is, that's what I learned about communication. And it was really good. So all that to say, I don't know why I could probably think about why I tangented about communications, because I liked college. That was my favorite class that I went to, or one of the favorite classes I went to. I don't know. Maybe because I was saying that goddamn, I got lost in my own fucking tangent. The point is, all right, so where I was getting at before I went on that rant was I came up with this book yesterday, and I was writing some goals. I want to rewrite my philosophy. I'm reading this book right now. It's called The Art of Exceptional Living by Jim Rohn. Really good book. One of the really good quotes that is in that book that's really cool, it says, good leaders are good readers. Take that for what it is. But I'm only going to go over my 6-year plan for the podcast. That was the whole point of everything I just said for the last 5 fucking minutes. So I apologize. As well as tangent, but I'm getting to the point. I cuss a lot. I try to work on it. And sometimes it just doesn't work, right? I just like to say cuss words. So it's not that I like to. It just comes out. Point is, my 6-year podcast plan. So I asked ChatGPT to run me my numbers. And no, I'm just kidding. All right. What I asked ChatGPT was along the lines. I don't have the actual question that I asked. I have it in my computer, but not on this. It was along the lines of use YouTube's data and analyze podcasts and the numbers that are being produced by podcasts. If I were to make 4 videos a month, about 2 hours long for 6 years straight, and what would the numbers be? And it kind of gave me this very detailed list of what it would look like. And it says for year 1, you're going to expect about a 5 to 10% growth with 500 to 1,000 subs, with anywhere between 5 to 20,000 views. So maybe by the end of this year, my goal could be, let's say 800 subs. That's in between 500 and 1,000. I could go for 800 subs. And staying consistent, my goal outside of like these numbers is to hit 4 videos a month, one possibly every Friday or every Saturday. That's about a 2-hour long video. And the goal would as well, a part of that would be to have a guest on every one of those videos. And sometimes I'll just hit something like this. Just kind of maybe like an update video, blah, 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 whatever. So 4 videos a month for 2 hours-ish. There's no minimum necessarily, but I guess the minimum I would really want to put out, especially if a guest is here, is an hour. I wouldn't want to go really less than an hour. I would want a little bit more than that. But by the end of this year, So for 1 year from now, I want to see 800 subs from myself. That would just show consistency. 5 to 20,000 views. Part of me doesn't, and I'll say this too. Actually, I'll get to the point. I'll get to the numbers, and then I'll say what I was going to say at the end if I can fucking remember. Year 2 is another 8 to 12% growth, 2 to 5,000 subs, 20 to 60,000 views. Year 3, 10 to 15% increase of growth, right? 10 to 30K subs, 60 to 250,000 views. Year 4, you're looking at 12 to 18% growth, 40K to 100K subs, 250 to 1 million views in 4 years. Year 5, you're looking at 15 to 20%, 150 to 300,000 subs, 500K to 2 million views. 6 years, 15 to 20%, 400 to 600,000 subs, 1 to 3 million views. All right. Luckily for us, I do remember what I was going to say about all these things. I think this is a good baseline to keep myself consistent and kind of have something to track and to follow. Because if I'm just doing this off the whim, it's like having a goal without setting goals to get there. Right? You're never going to reach a goal if you just have one goal and you don't have little mini goals to get to that goal. And we could dive deep into that later. But my point is, as well as that, as much as that is something that I want to consider, I also really do not want to do a podcast for numbers. I don't want to do a podcast for subs or for views. I want to do this because I enjoy the conversations. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy talking, right? I enjoy talking. If y'all can't tell, I could fucking keep going. I could tangent. We're going to start a segment called Hayden's Tangents. Instead of Hayden's Conversations, it's going to be Hayden's Tangents. And that's a fucking whole podcast in itself. Okay, before we do that. So now it goes into the next, on ChatGPT, it gave me a lot of segments. And the key to these numbers, to have those numbers that I just told you, the number one key was consistency, which I completely agree with that. It's really hard to constantly put out. I wouldn't say it's hard to put out the videos. What I would say is it's hard to keep the motivation and the desire to keep putting out videos, especially if you don't see results. And personally, this is where I see myself slacking sometimes because I've already done gym videos. I've already done a podcast. I've done a couple other things. Like, let me see. Hold on. Let me give you a second. So gym videos, I did that. Podcast, I did that. I did a lot of TikTok videos where it was like just life advice and like motivation, things like that. I'm pretty sure I did a couple other things. I don't know. I mean, those are the three big things that I've done all the social media stuff before. And as I'm getting to the point to where I'm 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years in, I'm getting traction. I'm going out, I'm meeting people. I'm having good conversations. A lot of the people that are actually on my main Instagram right now, because I have 2 Instagrams. My first Instagram, and this is part of the point. Don't worry. I'm not tangenting, even though I am. But I have one Instagram that was my Instagram from like high school, from a long time ago. And I felt like it was just fucking ghost followers or whatever they're called. So then I created another gym account, because all I was doing was posting gym videos. And I was like, all right, let me just create a gym account where all I did was post my gym content, my motivation videos, blah, blah. And what was cool about it is almost 90-something%. I don't know the actual numbers, but it's really the majority of the people that I follow or that have followed me back are people I've met in person. So it's like 590-something followers, which is not shit. I'm not saying it's anything. But the cool thing is that I've met most of these people in person. I created a relationship, not necessarily a deep one or anything like that, but I just went out at the gyms, and I used to travel to a bunch of gyms all around Houston. I've been to so many fucking gyms in Houston, and then in Dallas, I haven't went to too many. I go to Metroflex and Metroflex Plano, and then Absolute Recomp, and I've gone to. I go primarily to the one in North Richland Hills, but then there's one in Irving that I go to, or Las Colinas is what it is. So anyways, the point is, so all that information is to tell you that I feel like I've done all this before. And just as I was getting to that point to where maybe I was about to hit that breakthrough where you get that following that you're looking for, the sponsorship that you're looking for, because I was making gym videos and I thought it would be cool as fuck to be able to work out and get paid to work out. Who wouldn't want to do that? It'd be fucking sick. Point is, I want to have a goal for this podcast to be able to stay consistent. If I can have a goal and then have small goals before I get to this goal, I think it will help myself remain consistent, regardless if I have the following or the subs that's kind of expected from ChatGPT's analytics, or analytical data. So I think it would be, that's kind of why I don't know where to put this. Fuck. All right, I'm a terrible multitasker. Just fucking leave it right here. All right, so the point is, I don't know. Sorry. Jeez, I got distracted so hard. So anyways, I just want to have some type of goal for the podcast that will keep me continuing the consistency. Oh, I was going over consistency. Haha. I remembered. Okay. So that's consistency, guys. Tangents. They're my best. I'm the best at them. All right. So optimize thumbnails and titles. See, that's where I am not the best at. I know you can go to like Fiverr and little websites like that where you can pay somebody $15-$20 to create your thumbnail or your titles, things like that, is keeping optimized for engagement, right? And that's what sucks. I don't want to play a clickbait bullshit. I want natural following. I want natural engagement where it's like, oh, hey, I enjoyed that conversation. Let me send it to my friend. And now my friend likes to enjoy these conversations, so let me send this to him. And you just keep sending it and sending it and sending it, instead of saying like, oh my God, that title looks so cool, let me fucking click it. And then it's like this long conversation that we're having right now. Like, I don't, that's what's hard. That's what's hard. I'm not saying I'm not going to do it, because if that's what it's saying the key to do is, maybe I'm the one in the wrong. I can be wrong. I'm aware of that. And as in wrong, I mean like maybe I need to change. Maybe I need to grow. I need to do something better. All right. Engage guests. So that is bringing guests on. It talks about audience as well. I'm 50-50 about the audience, right? Because I want to produce content that people like. However, I want to produce my content that I like and get that natural following where people like the content that I have. So it's just remaining true to what I enjoy to get the natural following of what the audience would like to see is natural. So I don't want to change myself necessarily for followers. I want the followers that would enjoy the content that I have to come in, to find me, or me to find them, yes. However, I don't want to change myself to get more followers. Simple. Again, maybe that's why I might not make it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Repurpose content. And it kind of goes in with monitor analytics. Maybe if there's a segment that pops off, everybody likes. It says repurpose it. Same thing with monitor analytics. It's kind of the same thing as see what times, if it's too short, if it's too long, after a certain amount of videos, how many views do I get, blah, blah, blah. It breaks it down for you about how to monitor your analytics and what you should do, or monitoring analytics and what you should do with those numbers. Scale production, so invest in the podcast as you grow. That was the last one. One of the really cool things about investing in the podcast as I grow would be sick if I can get my own studio. Right now, I'm in my fucking room in my house, which is perfect because I have an extra room. And I actually really I painted this wall, and this is a dope ass color. Originally, it was going to be my office. Because when I'm studying, I like to have a nice dark room to study in. I'm one of those guys that likes to have the lights off and listen to some like really lo-fi, fucking sad, depressing music while I'm studying. It's a great vibe. You should try it. So what would be really cool one day is having the ability to have my own studio where I go rent out maybe a small, I don't even know, maybe 200 square foot lease a little studio for 200, 300 square feet, and that has 200, 300 square feet. What the fuck? Yo. I bet you my wife is turning on and off the light. Unless I'm sitting on the remote. One sec. It's on, I know. Sorry, guys. Funny. All right, hear me out. Exact reason why I was saying why I would want my own. I would want my own studio. Damn, hold on. All right, so sorry for that interruption. I'm honestly going to leave all this shit in here because welcome to the podcast where it's reality of imperfection, right? I am not perfect. Life is not perfect. And that's kind of, again, going back to the point to where I want to have this podcast go is you listen to other podcasts, Joe Rogan. When I say these things, it's because that's the fucking podcast I listen to. You listen to all these big name podcasts, and it just seems perfect. Whereas I'm like, that's not the life that I live in, at least not yet. Eventually, hopefully, that would be the goal, is to live in that perfection life. Which I'm not saying their life is perfect on that sense. Like, I get it. Joe Rogan has his things. And I just only say this because I don't want to... Joe Rogan's a person, right? I'm not saying that I feel that my words are going to make it to Joe Rogan. But what I want to do is be aware that Joe Rogan is a person. So I'm not going to talk shit about somebody, or I don't want to think that his life is easy because he's Joe Rogan. His life is his life. Anyways, holy fuck. I guess... I just don't want to be an asshole. And I feel like assuming how somebody lives and assuming how somebody's life is, like assuming who someone is without even knowing who they are is what an asshole would do. And I'm not an asshole. So when I say that his podcast is perfect, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying that from the outside perspective looking in, it's perfect because he has a really good production team. He has really good production, really good skill, blah, blah, blah. And what you just saw is not perfect. And that's why I'm saying I'm not going to cut it out, because that's the world I live in. I don't have my own studio. I don't have my own production crew. I don't have all these things to prevent imperfections. Welcome to the podcast. All right. So we went over intro, right? I want it to be straight to the point. We went over talking with a guest, and the only thing that's scripted that I want somewhat scripted is going to be their introduction into like who they are. Then we went over the goals and how we got into those goals. Then we went over fucking imperfections, right? Really, that's kind of like basically all that I have. That's all that I think about for this podcast, outside of like my ideas, right? What I would like to see is real meaningful conversations, and I keep reiterating this, and now it's just to the point to where, again, remember, this is a test run. This is me trying to make sure the audio is good, make sure that all these things are good, and make sure that my idea for what this podcast is going to be is in line with what I want, and for the people that are watching right now, for y'all to understand what it is that is coming. So one of the things that crosses my mind right now is kind of introducing me and who I am, because I want to give some type of video that's not only about an introduction and goals and things like that. So I'll start with just a personal history lesson about me, which is I am fucking unimportant as shit, right? I don't have any crazy story. At least it's not crazy to me because I'm me, and I don't think that there's any kind of specialty behind who I am. So it's really hard to talk about my past just in this environment because I'm like, what the fuck? But like, who cares? But however, I want to, I guess, express it because that's the point of this podcast. And I will say I don't actually really talk about myself a lot. This is really the first time I thought about on the spot right now. I just randomly thought, I was like, maybe I just give a history, a little background about myself, because that's what I want in this podcast. So first I want to say that I don't have any kind of story where I want to say, oh, pity me, oh, poor me, whatever, right? I think everything in life that we go through is hard, or it's a certain type of hard. So that way, when you get older, you have the strength to go through what's hard now in your life. So, my childhood, it was a childhood. I think it's really crazy because when you're a child, you don't really know what's the difference between normal and not normal. I was raised single parent, just my dad, and then I had a sister, I have a sister. She'll actually be on the podcast, which would be pretty cool. I think she's going to come in next weekend or the weekend after that, so she'll be on pretty soon. And that'll be cool. You'll get to actually see a little bit more about my history because I don't really like to talk about it too much. She'll open me up. And when I'm actually with my sister, I can think more about my childhood for some reason. It's kind of weird. I guess not. It's probably somebody that can relate to your story and they have memories that you can like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember. Anyways, point is, I played baseball a lot when I was a kid. I traveled. I don't know. I don't know if I was good or not, right? To be honest, let's be honest. I think when you're a kid, if you're at least somewhat athletic, everybody's going to say you're good. Because before you develop into like a teenager and hit puberty at that point, there's people are just like not naturally athletic, or you can't at that age, at a young age, you don't really work out on the sense of does it come natural? Like if it's natural to you, I think you're just better initially. And then what happens is you get the guys that really put in the work and really train pretty hard, like really hard, and they put in effort. And maybe they're not naturally gifted at this thing. And when I mean naturally, I'm not saying that they physically are awkward or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, when I was a kid, I think I was naturally good at sports. So as I got older, I just didn't put in as much work as the guys had to put in work to play with the naturally good athletic people. Like, I would say I was naturally good athletic. I was a naturally good athlete. But I think after like 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, I just stopped putting in work because I just didn't care. So 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, all the guys that were playing high school sports and they were trying really hard and they were constantly practicing, they were going to the gym, they were going to do all these things, I didn't care enough. So I think when I was younger, and the reason why I'm saying this is I think when I was younger, I was really good at baseball. Possibly. I don't know if I was or not. It seemed like I was good, but I don't know, because everybody wants to seem good at sports. Everyone wants to be the good one, right? So maybe I wasn't that good. Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't. But I just played a lot of baseball, so much baseball. I think my childhood consisted of only baseball, to the point to where I remember I was like center field, second baseman, and sometimes catcher, which I was a pretty good catcher, but that shit gets hot and tiring. I like center field, but the point is, I remember a lot of times I would be playing baseball. I'd be on the field, and I would see kids off the field having fun, and they would be playing with their friends, or my sister would be playing with her friends, or on the weekdays that during school, like after school, I'd have to go to practice. And even right there, see, I say I'd have to go to practice instead of I got to go to practice, which in hindsight, I got to go to practice. It was a great experience, and it really put another level of discipline and effort within myself. However, I think I burned myself out from constantly doing that from, maybe, from the time T-ball starts all the way up until maybe like 7th grade, which is like not shit. 7th grade, you're like maybe 12 or 13. But at that point, I'm playing baseball for 10 years out of the fucking 13 years that I could play, or that I've been alive, or 14 years that I've been alive. And I think I just got burnt out of it. And it also doesn't help when your dad's the coach and yelling at you to hurry the fuck up or something like that. And I don't know. It was an experience. So that was really my childhood. I feel like I was a good bad kid, if that makes sense. I wasn't a bad kid where I didn't destroy people's property. I wasn't disrespectful to parents. I knew if I was disrespectful, my dad would fucking hit me. I didn't talk back much. It took a lot for me to talk back. I didn't really get into fights. I mean, I'm still talking about my youth, like maybe 6th grade and under. I didn't take school serious. I feel like there was certain times in my life that I enjoyed school, and it just depended on the teacher. That's something that I now am aware of, that it depends on your teacher and how focused and how much effort they put into you as a student, for you to have the desire to want to learn, right? And which is crazy because I'm an instructor now, and I hated school. And now as an instructor, as a teacher, I really try to put an emphasis on why what the students are learning is so important, especially as a helicopter pilot. If you don't learn the right, whether it's skill or judgment, because judgment is a huge factor in aviation, because typically accidents in aviation lead to death, especially helicopters, right? That's the issue with helicopters and all these crashes and things like that, is most of the time it could just be a simple accident. It might not be that the pilot is making a dumb decision or an idiot or shit like that. Like we can all scrutinize somebody for making this decision, where in reality it's like, dude, you just made a mistake. And unfortunately, in helicopters, most of these mistakes are going to be fatal. So that's where now, as a teacher, I emphasize on the importance of judgment and skill. But when I was in high school and junior high and elementary, I really didn't care that much. So then we got to junior high, and that's kind of where I started stepping away from baseball. I started enjoying hanging out with friends a little bit more, and I kind of made that aware to my dad that I was just like, dude, I think I made it aware by having less interest. So then my dad was kind of like, all right, if you're not going to care, then I'm not going to care. And then I was like, finally, like, I get to go do my own thing. And now looking back at it, what if I was in the MLB? What if I was making millions of dollars? Fucking idiot. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if I would be that good. That's what I'm saying. I don't even know if I was that good enough. So anyways, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, just rebellious kid, didn't care about school. But 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th grade, high school was crazy. High school was a cool time, but a hard time. That was I went from one school zone to another school zone. So I literally went to a different high school from all my friends. And I knew one person in this high school that I knew for a year in junior high. And then I went to this high school, which is Morton Ranch. So I went to West Memorial Junior High. Dude, I haven't talked about this in so long. So that's why I'm saying a lot of like ums and likes and things like that, because I have to remember this myself. So I went to West Memorial Junior High. I knew one person that went to that school, I think, in 7th grade. And then we moved to relocate to go to Morton Ranch High School. And then in Morton Ranch, I knew nobody. And that was really difficult in the very beginning. It was 50-50. It was difficult because I didn't know anybody. So I was the odd person in school because it was like, who is this person? But it was cool-ish because I could make a name for myself. However, I wasn't aware enough at the time to make the right decisions, to make the right name for myself. So, I don't know, at that time, you're just a young kid trying to fit in with the cool kids. And it's funny because looking back at who the cool kids were, it's like maybe they weren't the cool kids. You know, I don't know. It's just the ideas that you have as a young kid is just so not reality. You know what I mean? So anyway, so 9th grade, I played tennis. I was like number 2 freshman or number 1 freshman and in tennis. And that's actually crazy. I forgot to say that in 8th grade, I picked up tennis because one of my buddies was playing tennis and he's like, dude, you should play tennis. And I was like, all right, let's play tennis. And I think I won 8th grade tennis. I had a trophy for some type of championship play that I don't know. Like I'm pretty sure I was like either number 1 or number 2 in 8th grade. No, I was number 1 and number 2 all the way up until like the finals where you start playing kids that are like, yeah. Okay. So anyways, no, I didn't win. I played, I did really good. And then in high school, I went and played for Morton Ranch, and I was like number 1, number 2 freshman. And then I got destroyed by some kid that went to like Seven Lakes. He was like 7 foot tall, and some Indian kid, and he was fucking good. He obviously played his entire life, kind of thing, and I just picked it up the year before to like just bullshit. So I met some really cool people in that. 10th grade, I didn't do shit. I don't think I played tennis in 10th grade, and then I didn't play. I might have played baseball. I played baseball in 10th grade for Morton Ranch, and that was just another bullshit. I just bullshitted the entire time. And then school, I didn't pay attention to any of my classes. I didn't care enough. It wasn't a bad kid. I just didn't care. I did not care. That's the issue behind my issues as a kid, is I just didn't care. So junior and senior year, I got into partying a lot, and that's where actually junior year going into senior year, had a lot of that was my first job. I was working with my buddy Joey. That was crazy. That was fun. Working with my buddy in high school, and just partied my ass off and spent all my money like an idiot. I was a high school kid spending a bunch of money and not saving it when I should have been. Then senior year, I was with, at that time, my wife was my girlfriend, and there's a whole story behind how we met that maybe one of these days I'll dive into, but I'm just trying to summarize this shit just to get to the point of who I am and what I did. So my wife and I got together my senior year, and then 6 months. So I was at the time, I didn't play any sports my senior year. I fucking skipped school all the time that year. Actually my junior year I had to go to summer school, or else I was going to fail. Junior, whatever. My junior class, or like I was going to fail 11th grade if I didn't go to summer school. So I had to go to summer school. And then my senior year, I passed, but just right on the line. As many absences as you could get, I got them. I just didn't care. I think that was my issue. I had no reason. I had no reason to care. I knew I wasn't going to college. So I was just like, there's no way I was getting to college. I had no ability to, and I didn't even take an SAT. I didn't do any of that stuff. So I was working at a hobby shop. Actually, there's a gun shop, right? It was right off of Mason Road, and it's called Full Armor Firearms. And I went into the store, and I was like, hey, like if y'all are hiring, I like guns. I'd like to apply to work here. And he's like, hey, like we've got all the positions full here, but we have another store, and it's called Heli Junkies, and it was an RC hobby shop. So I went to the hobby shop. I introduced myself to this guy named Juan, which is now one of my really good friends still to this day, since like 2016 it was when we met, and it's fucking 2025 now. It's almost 10 years, geez. So I went in, introduced myself. He asked when was the soonest I could start, and I said I would start right now. And he's like, okay, well, here, go grab this. And that moment right there, I started hanging stuff on the walls and helped build this RC hobby shop with him. And I worked there for like 6 to 8 months. And I was making $8 an hour under the table. So it was a little bit better than $8 an hour, but it was $8 an hour. And it was under the table. At that time, I had for most of that time, I had no vehicle. And I wasn't living with my dad. I skipped a lot of personal shit because I'm not going to really go into that in depth. At least maybe with my sister here, I'll remember some of the shit. But my senior year, I moved out of my dad's house. I started living with my buddy for a while, and then once high school ended, they were just kind of like, hey, like, what are you going to do now? Like, you kind of got to do something. And they weren't kicking me out or anything like that. They were just asking me, like, what am I going to do now? And I just didn't have an answer for them. And I was dating my wife at the time for maybe like 6 to 8 months. And I don't know how it worked, but I ended up almost staying at her house for a few months. And because I didn't have a car. So at this point, I didn't have a car. I had, give you a little perspective, I had 3 vehicles, and my dad kept taking the keys from one of them. So I ended up buying another vehicle. Well, actually, the first one was like my stepmom's car, and they ended up selling that one. So then I saved up all my money that junior year going into senior year to buy a truck. And then we just had so many maintenance problems with that truck, and I just kept dumping money into it. So I ended up selling it, and then gave my dad the money for that. Well, actually, my dad took the money for that. Then he bought at like a 2001 Chevy Silverado that I had for maybe like a month, and then I just kept getting grounded because I was constantly doing dumb shit. I had a lot of problems in school. Fuck ISS, OSS, a lot of shit. I was just a bad kid. At that point, I was actually really close to being a bad kid. I still, outside of school, I was a good kid because I was still respectful. But inside school, I wasn't respectful to teachers, which is like unfair to them. And I actually feel bad for them because I was such a bad student. It's my fault. I'm aware of that. So the whole point of that is I didn't have a car. I moved out of my dad's house. I was living with my friend for a few months, working at this hobby shop. And the only way I could get to this hobby shop is my wife would pick me up. Her drive to pick me up was 30 minutes and then 30 minutes to work. Every fucking day that I worked, she would come pick me up, drop me off, pick me up, drop me off back at the house. And then and my buddy would pick me up. The guy that I was living with too, he would pick me up and take me to work sometimes too. And then eventually it got to the point to where that's where the family was like, hey, which they're like my second family. Hey, like, what are you going to do? And I just didn't have an answer for them. So I was like, you know what? I'll kind of like get out of your hair and I'll go live with my wife or my girlfriend at the time, which was wild that my mother-in-law allowed me to do that. And, so I lived with them for maybe like 2 or 3 months, maybe 2-3 months. I don't even know, maybe like a month. And I was actually really like still looking back at it. I'm like, holy shit, like I can't believe you let me do that. But then at that point, you know, I remember this one day, it's so vivid. I can remember this feeling. My wife, I was sleeping at her house. She was driving me to work on I-10. And I was in the passenger seat in her car. And I remember what the freeway looks like. I remember what I saw. I remember this moment so vividly. And I was like, is this the life that I want to give her? And that I want to live myself. And that moment, I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the Army recruiter. And that was the only way out that I could see that it would work. Because I knew I couldn't go to college at that time. So then, like within that week, I went to the Army recruiter, met this guy. I met the recruiter and took my ASVAB, all these things, went through MEPS, all that. This is all 2016, and I had a good enough GT score where I could get a Blackhawk crew chief. So I was a Blackhawk maintainer. So I did maintenance on Blackhawks, but you know, after like the first year in the unit, you go to a flight company and you're a crew chief. So I was a crew chief for most of my time. But so at that point, once after that week, I waited till that was probably August, June, July, August, September, October. I think that was in October or November when I finally did that. I was just fed up. It was October, I think. So I was just kind of fed up with my life, and I was like, dude, this is not where I want to go. So then went to the recruiter, signed all my papers, did everything I had to do, and then I shipped out in January 3rd, I think it was, January 3rd, January 4th, and went to basic training. I went to Relax in Jackson, which wasn't so relaxing. I think it's all depending on your own experience, if it's hard or if it's easy. And then how serious do you take it? There were people in there that didn't take it serious, that didn't care, that didn't learn any creeds, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't saying that I took it fucking to heart or like I was super soldier, super serious, because I wasn't at all. But I think when it came to like physical punishment and that physical sense of basic training, I took it super serious. So it was a little bit harder. Like I wanted to finish first on the PT test. I wanted to finish first on all the runs. I wanted to do this shit. I never wanted to be the last person on a ruck. I never wanted to shoot the lowest score. Land nav, I wanted to have the best land nav score. So if you strive for those things, it makes it harder. But if you're there to just bullshit and just get it done, it's Relax in Jackson because it doesn't fucking matter to you. But honestly, I really enjoyed it. I don't mind a hand on my neck for discipline and leadership kind of thing, because right now, just for instance, if I were to tell you to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, there's no reason to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. There literally is none. Other than me just telling you to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. However, if they tell you to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, you better be up at 4:30 in the morning or you're going to get fucked up. So, your days just get longer. Your productivity becomes longer because now you have so many things that you're doing in this day. If you have 3 phases, red, yellow, green phase, I don't know. I can't even remember. Or red, white, and blue phase. I don't even fucking remember what it was. But, in each phase you get a little bit more leniency, but now your responsibilities increase. And I don't know, it was away from home. It was a new schedule, but it was a structured schedule that was implemented for hundreds of years, right? Basic training has been going around for so long that it's not like you're going into a program that doesn't know what they're doing. And they're just like, okay, let's test this out. You're going through a disciplined, structured program. So it really makes you feel like you just optimized all that time that you were there. And then you're making money while you're fucking getting shit on. So everything was free. You didn't have to worry about bills. You didn't have to worry about anything because everything's fucking paid for, which is another thing that hindsight, I'm like, damn, what a good time. Same thing with AIT. AIT was like your tech school or whatever it's called. And I went for 16 weeks in Fort Eustis. That was bullshit. It was just learning how to do my job. So each week you're changing. Okay, this is airframe week. This is engines week. This is rotor blades. This is electrical week. This is hydraulics week. Blah, blah, blah. You're just learning about the helicopter. You're taking tests and you're sitting in the classroom, and then you have PT in the morning. And that's where like kind of life goes back to normal. You can have your phone during X amount of hours, blah, 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 whatever. So super easy. That part of my life was pretty cool. Again, you're just getting paid to work out and to learn. So it was, again, hindsight, man, what a good time. The other thing too is just the memories that you make. I'm not going into depth or going into detail about any of the memories and the people that I've made, anything like that. I'm just simplifying my life as much as I can. And that was, this might be boring, right? This might be boring for you. And I'm sorry if it is. Because, I don't know, my life hasn't been some extraordinary life. At least it's not to me. I can't tell an extraordinary life story if I'm not thinking my life is extraordinary. So, anyways, that was AIT. I go to Fort Hood, and I went straight from Fort Hood to Europe. I got deployed within. I mean, it's not deployed. I got sent on a rotation to Europe. It wasn't a deployment. At least not in my books. I don't consider it a deployment. Got sent to Poland. That was a fucking wild. That one was a crazy experience. That was a completely redefining moment of my understanding of how quality of life is. Where right now, where I'm sitting at in life is fucking nice. As well as NAIT at Fort Hood. Anywhere else in life that I was at was great compared to Poland. Poland was fucking insane. Dude, we went to, so before I get to Poland, what we do is, I'll give you a little context. I went to Fort Hood. I processed. I did all that stuff. I lived in Fort Hood for maybe a month. And then I got sent on a rotation to Europe. And then our first stop in Europe was in Belgium. That was sick. Super cool. I was on the port team. So what the port team does is they go in, they unfold all the blades on the helicopter. Like you fly in on this big jet. Side note. The really cool thing about flying in on port team is if you're one of the guys that's loading the bags, is it might sound like, wow, like that's some bitch shit to load the bags. Dude, if you load the bags, they put you in the very front, like first class or whatever the very, very front of the plane is, to where I was a PFC or PV2. I don't even know if I was a PFC. I might have been I was a PFC. So I was a PFC sitting in a reclined seat. That's with like majors and generals and whoever were probably not generals, but battalion commanders and lieutenant colonels and things like that. Were sitting next to me, like that kind of thing. Maybe not like the person next to me was a fucking private as well, but the person over there, 2 seats over, he was the major, he was the colonel, things like that. And so got to load the bag. I loaded the bags, and that was a fucking privilege. So that way, on this 14-hour flight, I could sit in a recline chair. That was sick. So we get to port in Belgium. We unfold the blades. We're staying in these like Belgian tents kind of thing. I don't even know what they would be called. They're just like almost like a big warehouse with cots. And that was cool. Like none of this experience was bad. It was pretty cool. Like, just imagine you're in a room full of the boys. You got hundreds of the boys with you, and that was cool. And there's no responsibility other than your work. And in my rank, where I was at in my position and time, I was just getting told what to do. So even easier, right? I don't have responsibilities other than to be where they told me to be and do what they told me to do. Super simple. So after port, we got to have like a week off and go to Belgium. Like downtown Brussels, got to go explore Belgium. And, I'm fucking 19 at this time, 18, 19. It was such an eye-opening experience. It was so crazy. And at 18, 19, you can drink alcohol. Even though technically we're not allowed to drink alcohol, they were like, hey, drink alcohol, but don't get fucked up because then it's on the chain of command's ass. And the chain of command was actually legit. They were pretty cool. So got to go to Belgium, explore Brussels. That was my first time ever being out of the country and ever on something that would be considered a vacation, because I never had gone on vacation except for one time with my wife. And we went to, at the time she was my girlfriend, we went to Florida, Miami. That's another story for another time. However, so outside of that time, that was my first time ever doing anything like that. And it was fucking crazy. It was so cool. What a great experience. I really enjoyed Belgium. I'd go back to Belgium. So from Belgium, we fly to Germany. In Germany, I could be wrong. We did either from Belgium to Czech Republic to Germany, or from Belgium to Germany, Czech Republic to Poland. It was one of those routes. I don't even remember. Super cool. I remember some pretty cool experiences. Going to Germany, I was walking on base. I don't even remember what base it was. I was going to tell you a story about some first sergeant that I met, but it doesn't even fucking matter. It's not even that great of a story. So went to Germany, stayed there for like a week. I didn't really do anything crazy. I think I just worked out that entire week, and then went to Prague, which is Czech Republic. Went to Prague, got to go downtown, stayed there for like 3 days because I think we went to Germany, then we went to Prague, and their helicopter broke, so we stayed in Prague, and we stayed there for like 3 or 4 days. Got to explore downtown Prague, which was really cool. Then we go to Poland, and what a fucking life shocker! Like literally living in tents, and we're eating field rations. And field rations is basically a huge MRE for hundreds of people. Instead of having one MRE for yourself, they have like these warmed up trays of MREs that they serve hundreds of people. And we ate that for 9 months. And I just, not to go into detail because it doesn't matter too much, just the living quality and conditions were just wild. Never have I ever lived in such shitty living conditions. Where like just one example, not to go into detail other than the fucking food. One example was the showers that we had were it was in World War II barracks, and I think this is how it went. It was along the lines of this. They had a water sack under the building that was filled up, obviously, with water. And then when you turn on the hose, or like whenever you turn on the heater, it's supposed to like warm up the bag, or like I don't know how it would work, but somehow like the heating system is supposed to warm up the water inside the bag. I don't know fucking how it worked, whatever. But the heating system broke, and when you're taking a shower, it was so I've never taken a shower so cold to this day to match how cold that water was. And it was like that for months. It was so fun. And get this, like we were there in the winter time. So when it's like 10 degrees outside, you're showering in water that literally feels like it's coming out fucking like icicles on you. It was so fucking cold. The heater, there was no heater in the barracks. None of that. Dude, it was so wild. It was crazy. But hindsight. I complained too much. It wasn't that bad. It was a great experience to where now I've experienced very shitty situations, very shitty living situations in the States, and they do not compare and they do not faze me because it doesn't fucking matter, right? It's just a moment in your time in life that is not the best. So I think that's one of the things I took away from it. I complained so much while I was there that now looking back at it, I was like, dude, it was actually not that bad. And now when I find myself in conditions that I don't like to live in, I'm like, oh, well, it's going to end. It's going to end. I'm going to get back to my normal style of living. So after that, after like 9 months, went back to Texas, Fort Hood, and just did a lot of missions. I mean, nothing like fucking combat missions. I was like part of the Border Patrol missions that didn't even do a Border Patrol mission. I just did like mountain flying and a lot of training flights. That's about it. Constantly gone. I did this Redstone training, which was sick as fuck, which is we tested what's called close infrared countermeasures. I think that's what it stands for, Kirkham. It was this close infrared countermeasure system that they were testing on Blackhawks. So if an infrared missile were to be shot at a Blackhawk, there's this like little eye that would laser it and then redirect it. So I got to go test that. That was a pretty cool experience. Probably a couple of other little things that I did that it's to me, the reason why I'm so nonchalant about this, I'm not going into detail, is because I lived it. So it doesn't, it's whatever. It's just what I did. It's nothing crazy. So, yeah, I guess to simplify it, then I went to the life-changing moment in my life, and that was when I went to Green Platoon for 160th, and that was a redefining moment in my life. I think after all my childishness and all my stupidity as a young soldier, I had an opportunity to brand my name and rebrand who I was. So when I went to Green Platoon, I took it very serious. And actually, I would say I took Green Platoon very serious. I enjoyed every fucking moment, every pain in that moment. I enjoyed touching that fucking fence because I'm a very physical, capable person when it but not necessarily is it physical, it's mental. I think that's where I shine. I will say I pride myself with it, and there's only one way to find out. And so if anybody is like, hey, okay, let's go try this workout. Let's go try this. Let's go see how your mind works now. I'm always down. I'm always down for a challenge. However, I don't know. I think my willpower and my mind to give up is my limit before I give up is so astronomically high that going through Green Platoon was fun because I challenged myself to take it serious. So all the punishment and it's not like punishment like that I received myself. It's like just what they do. You're getting smoked the entire time or whatever you call it. And that was just such a fun experience in my life and such a mental testing point where I was like, damn, do I really want this as bad as I say I want it? And so many times where I just found myself like, am I going to give up now? Is now the time I'm going to give up? Is now the time I'm going to go? And the point is I just took it serious. So I found myself getting to those points. Again, there's people in there that didn't even learn the Soldier's Creed. There's the Night Stalker's Creed, excuse me. And then there's people in there that didn't pass PT tests, that couldn't pass the standards, anything like that. And they still get pushed through because, simply put, the Army just needs numbers. And maybe when they get their unit, they're going to get kicked out. I don't know what happened. This was fucking years ago. But anyways, point is that was my life-changing moment. Was I was going to go to 160th. I passed Green Platoon. It was a great experience. I was like, I can't wait to redefine who I am. And then I get back to my unit, and I'm just a fucking idiot. And this was during COVID. So to give you some context, this was during COVID, so we couldn't do anything. We weren't allowed to work. However, I'm not fucking complaining about that. For like 3 months, I got to fucking play video games and get paid. So it was fucking sick, dude. What a time that was. However, what I did get to do is get fucked up by my chain of command because technically I broke a general order during COVID that said you couldn't associate with people outside of your household. And I went to somebody's house, and they tried to get me that I was outside of this radius. They tried to give me like field grade articles, which, geez, I don't even want to go over this fucking story because this is fucking bullshit. This is part of the reason why I hate parts of the military, parts of chain of command, because there's no... my experience with chain of command is terrible. I didn't have somebody there to ever stick up for me because I wasn't, but however, it's my fault. I would constantly put myself in positions where, not constantly, I would find myself in a position here and there, randomly sometimes, where I would look like the bad guy because I wouldn't respect the rank, because if this rank told me to do something, I'd like, well, it doesn't make fucking sense. Why would I do more work? Why would I get my guys to do more work if you could simply do this? But the answer is to just do what they told you to do, right? That's the hard part about the military that I didn't get. So when I went to 160th, I was like, I'm going to change this. I'm not going to be that guy anymore. I'm going to fucking say yes, sir, and that's it. I'm aware of how it works now. Until I got back after passing it, and then I fucking injured myself and I dislocated 4 out of the 8 bones of my wrist and then snapped my collarbone in half. Great time. And basically they're like, hey, you were outside of this radius that we put in place that you couldn't go to, and you went to somebody's house that you couldn't go to. And I was like, well, sir, here on the map shows you the radius that we have. And I was inside the radius. And then he was like, oh, you're hitting me with a technically? And I was like, well, no, I'm not hitting you with a technically. I'm telling you right here on the map, if you were to show where we're at, I'm inside the radius. And that's me being a rebellious anti-authority, which I'm aware that my hazardous attitude is anti-authority. So it didn't go too well for me. And then I actually got demoted, got extra duty. And at that point, I couldn't, because I broke my wrist, I couldn't even fucking move my hand. And so I stopped. I couldn't literally move my fingers at that time. And so they put me on extra duty for 30 days, lost my rank. And I was a specialist promotable literally the week before that. Dude, it's such bullshit as I think about this. So before I went to 160th, or not 160th, before I went to Green Platoon for 160th, I went to the board and I passed the board. And I don't know how I didn't win the board, which is kind of crazy. So, I'm not even gonna fucking say that. Sorry. I just didn't win the board. Whatever. So I didn't win the board, but I passed. See, my mind is, I want to win. And that's why everything's so fucking hard in my life, because I want to fucking win. Anyways, so I passed the board. So I'm an E4 promotable and I have the points. But I didn't have BLC. That's what prevented me from getting promoted. So all I needed was BLC, but then I was going to Green Platoon, so I didn't get slotted to go to BLC. So I went to Green Platoon, passed Green Platoon, and they're like, hey, we're not going to send you to BLC. You can get that whenever you get to your unit. So I was like, fucking, all right, whatever. I was already pissed off about that because I was like, dude, I've just done all these things. I've been a great soldier. I've done all these things, blah, blah, whatever, up to this point. And you still won't send me. And they're trying to, jeez, this brings back so many memories because it's all political. Hear me out. It's just like your workforce right now. There's a reason why you don't have the raise. Possibly. There's a reason why you don't have the position you want. Possibly. Because the person that can give that raise is going to give it to the person they like. Regardless if you're doing the better work or you're the harder worker or you provide quality work, more quality work. But if you don't have your politics in order, you won't get promoted. At least, again, that's why I'm saying I had fucking terrible leadership. And don't get me wrong, I don't think these people are going to watch my podcast because who I was to them. They didn't like me because I didn't like them. And I fucking made it vocal. I made sure that I knew that I was like, dude, you're going to send this guy that's a fucking retard to the board and you're not going to send me? Like, however, at the time, maybe I wasn't mature enough. Maybe I wasn't ready. So I'm aware that everything in life has happened the way it should happen. So I didn't like the political side to the Army because I couldn't play the political game. And now I'm aware of it. However, the point is, so I was E4 promotable, past Green Platoon, getting ready to go to 4th Battalion, broke my wrist or dislocated my wrist, broke my collarbone in that transition period during COVID inside of this radius, but I went to somebody's house. So I got a field grade Article 15 that demoted me and put me on extra duty because I went to somebody's house. Because I broke at that point, it's because I broke a general order saying you couldn't go to somebody's house, which that's what the general order said. So I'm aware that I broke the fucking general order. So luckily at that time I was so done with my, oh jeez, dude, there's so much more. All right, fucking enough talking about it because there's more shit that I could talk about that was just fucked up. But the point is, that was my turning point. Outside of 160th that I thought that was going to be my changing period where I was like, I want to rebrand who I was to go to this unit and become a good soldier. I was excited for that, and then it didn't happen. And I was like, and then the treatment that I got from my chain of command, I was just like, all right, I'm getting out. So I ended up getting out because of my injuries. And after that point, that was a reality shock about getting out. Just life outside of the Army was kind of crazy. That was like one of the hardest things that it took me to understand getting out of the Army was not everybody has had that level of discipline forced on them that the military does have on you. The desire. Most of the guys that I saw outside of the military didn't have the desire to want more, which I'm not saying everybody in the military did either. There's a lot of people in the military that don't have that desire. But you see a lot more people with the desire. So that was kind of like the two things. And then the other thing would be punctuality. That shit drives me crazy, and it surprises me. I would say now in my work field, it's a little bit different. Originally, when I got out of the military, I was working in this high-end remodeling job. And working with them, great guys, really great guys. No complaints about them on the sense of like who these guys were. Like they're really cool people. I can call them and have a cool conversation with them literally to this day. But dude, they could show up late and there's nothing you can do about it. And my culture that I come from being in the military, my work culture, has now warped my mind to be like, what the fuck? Like, it's just not normal. It's not normal to be late. I'm 30 minutes early to be 15 minutes early. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing. If you're not 15 minutes early, you're late kind of thing. Or what is it? If you're on time, you're late. If you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. And if you're 30 minutes early, you're early. Like that kind of thing, whatever, if that makes sense. So those are the three things that was like just a really hard time to understand. The mentality and the world that I had just got back into, which is like the civilian world. So then I worked at this high-end remodeling job for a few months, maybe like 4 to 6 months, making good money. I really enjoyed what I did. It was really, I liked it. It was cool working in $1 million homes and redeveloping or demoing bathrooms, and I was a supervisor, so my job was fucking easy. It was so easy. I mean, the only thing I did really was demo and put up some walls, maybe something super simple. Dude, it was so easy. And then you just have your subcontractors come in. You're tracking your subcontractors, like who's coming in first, like what are you doing, the floors, the cabinets, the walls, the paint, blah blah blah. Like what's the order? What's the process? Is the homeowner happy? Kind of thing. Stupid easy. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy. It's an easy job on the sense of like it took no effort. It's just it was a good job. I really enjoyed it. But another hard thing to do outside of the military was find my purpose. This is not something I thought about while I was in, but when I got out, I was like, damn, like I was just in the military and everything that just happened, I didn't feel like I left on a good note either. And I was like, damn, where's my purpose now? Like, at least in the military, I could have some sense of purpose. I had some sense of duty or service, you know, and that was my biggest thing, that working at this job, I just didn't have that. So that leads me into the helicopter world. And like, how did I get there? It's a really crazy story. So I have a good friend of mine. He was actually one of my groomsmen, and we actually been talking recently too. So I'll probably get him on the podcast too soon. His name's Chase. Really, really funny, good kid. Really, I don't mean to say good kid. Fuck. It's funny because I've met him as a kid and he was a kid. So thinking about it, I was like, oh, kid, but he's not a kid. He's a grown man. Fuck. Sorry. I don't mean to say it like that. But a really good guy. So I met him, or not met him. I met him in high school. But the point is so my buddy Chase at that time, he was doing all the dirt biking and doing wheelies down streets and shit like that. And this day it was different. Something happened and it was just different. He wasn't out on the highway doing wheelies and doing all this shit. He was going to the convenience store to go pick up some medicine because he was sick, and he was riding his dirt bike to go pick up medicine. And a car ran a red light and hit him. And then he had to get life flighted out, like from where he got hit, and ended up losing his leg. Crazy, almost died. A bunch of, like, there's so much more. And now he lost his hearing. Like, he lost his leg, lost his hearing. But I think he lost his hearing because he got hit by another car that I think ran a red light again. Crazy. But the point is, so the first time he got life flighted out, and I went to the hospital to go say hi to him and see how he was doing and whatever, just kind of was like checking up on him. And whenever we were like, me and his parents stepped outside, we were just having a conversation because his parents were really cool. I was talking to his parents and just having a good conversation. And the EMS pilots actually walked out, and Chase's mom was like, "Oh, hey, those are the EMS pilots. Hayden, like, you have the most experience with helicopters. Like, that's what you should go fly helicopters and go do this, whatever." And that was the moment where it kind of like clicked, where I was like, I flew in Blackhawks all the time. I do have some experience. And like after that, I started talking to my wife about it, and I was like, "Hey, like, I think I want to go. I want to go be a helicopter pilot." And she was like, "What? Okay." And this is what's crazy. My wife looked up a school and asked if I wanted to go. So my wife has been very supportive about it. And this was 3 years ago now. She sent me to it's called Veracity Aviation out in Pearland, and we got a discovery flight. And anybody learning now, you can go do a discovery flight. It's like $180 to $200, 30-minute ground session and a 30-minute flight, and they'll actually let you take the controls. And that's shit I do now. I teach people how to do that shit, and I do discovery flights with people. Anyways, so I go in. And at the time, I actually had a friend of mine from the military over. It was Nash. And Nash is actually going to be on here, too. He's one of the guests that's going to be coming soon. He's already on the agenda, on the list. Anyways, Nash and I go to this flight school. And when I get there, I introduce myself to my pilot. And his name is Guido. And he's a Black Hawk pilot. And so I was like, no way. Like, both of us are Black Hawk crew chiefs. We're at Fort Hood, blah, blah. And like, and we're just kind of sharing our war stories. Right. And so we do our ground session, and then we go do our flight, and Guido's like showing me everything you can do in the helicopters. And it's just like, dude, this is crazy. This is awesome. Blah, 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 whatever. Having a good time. And literally that moment, this is like the moment where if you ever go take a discovery flight, that's when you'll find out if you want to fly helicopters or not. Because then you'd be like, holy shit, this is crazy. This is fun. So started my journey, and I was kind of going through flight school. I worked and I went to flight school. So I started off working part-time. I just kind of went from working at that construction job, the high-end remodeling job, part-time. So like maybe like Monday through Wednesday I would work, and then Thursday and Friday I'd go to school. And then it went from that to where my boss was just like, it was kind of like a happy medium between both of us, where I was like, hey, I don't know if I can work like this while I'm going to school. And he's like, yeah, I kind of need somebody a little bit more committed too. So it was kind of like a mutual understanding. And he's like my second dad. So it wasn't like it was a super, super easy transition out of that job. So I was going to school full time for like a month or two. And then I was like, dude, I got to work. Like, I also got to work. I got to get some type of money. So then I went back, the guy that I was talking about in the very beginning, where I started working with him at Heli Junkies. He now has a mechanic shop. So I was going to school, and then on the weekends I'd go work at the mechanic shop and just help him do maintenance on cars. So that was another like 6 months to a year where I just helped him while I was going through school. School took me an entire year to go. Well, it took me 6 months to go from 0 hours to private, which I got my private license at like 40 hours, I think, or like 38 to 40 hours. And then from private to instrument, I had to wait a certain amount of time because I used my GI Bill. So, and GI Bill only pays a portion of it, but you have to apply for it. So it takes like a month and a half to get approval for it. And then you don't even get the full amount of what the school costs. So I got approval, so I had to wait like a month and a half before I could do training. Then I went finally after like a month and a half, I went into my instrument training. After instrument training, I was just like, dude, I have to come up with another like 50 grand. Like there's no way that I can fucking afford 50 grand again. So we looked into I kind of looked into the degree option, and I ended up coming up here to TCC. Well, here is in Dallas, but out in Fort Worth. I'm like pointing in directions where it's at, and it's like there's no fucking reference as I'm talking. Sorry. So I ended up going to TCC for that year to go through commercial, and that was part of the college experience that I got. That was really, really crazy. Really good time. It was a very contradicting time. It's probably the best time and the worst time of my life was going through college. And part of me is kind of shy and not in full desire to talk about this. So so I'll kind of keep it brief, and we'll see how I go when I talk into this. So the college side was great. Really cool. What a fucking experience it was, because it's college. It was really fun. And what's crazy is I actually took college serious, because remember high school, I didn't care at all. And then I think the one thing that the Army taught me is that education matters. So I went to college and I started taking it super serious, and I enjoyed it. And then maybe like, I don't know, May, June, 2 months into college, my brother-in-law passes away. So my wife's brother passes away, and that was my second life-changing moment. My first life-changing moment was going to the military, is breaking my wrist. That was a life-change moment. And I'm appreciative of that life-change moment. And then my second life-changing moment was when my brother-in-law passed away. And don't really talk about it too much. Just still shocked to this day. It's been 2 years, and still in complete shock about it. I don't know what to say. There's so much emotion, so much meaning behind who he was to me, and being the only man in my wife and my mother-in-law's life now it's definitely a pass on of the torch to hold the responsibility of taking care of them. And it was an immediate change of feeling. Me and Daniel is his name, and just a great guy. Fucking love him. He introduced me to my wife, which was really crazy. There's a really crazy. It's crazy to me and to us because of who he was, and how this happened, that he introduced me to his sister, because of all people, he'd never introduced anybody to his sister, and I guess he used to fucking beat people up that would try to talk to his sister. And so it was really shocking that he hooked me up with his sister. And look, we're still married. So me and him had a great relationship. Literally my brother, that my wife's family taught me what family really means, what love really means. And not just the corny love of like, oh my God, I love my wife. It's like, no, I love Daniel. I love my mother-in-law. I love my father-in-law. I love my wife. Like, and seeing how their family operated was wild. It was, I'm very, very thankful for him allowing me into the family. And actually he gave a really, really good speech on our wedding day, where he said, I know Julie is a bird now, but, welcome to the Nichols family, Hayden. And so that was the second life-changing moment of my life, and a lot of growth that came from that, within personal development, within responsibility, within awareness in life, within enlightenment in life, maturity, just development of my character. And as well as it's not all good either, though. There's been a lot of flaws that I catch myself still to this day, that I'm just very pessimistic. I'm a very negative person, and I think about death 24/7. Every accomplishment, the first person that should be here in anything I do is Daniel. And we just talked about it. That was the relationship that me and him had. And it was the one person that I knew that I could live the rest of my life with, to do the things that I wanted to do with, was the fucking perfect person. And that's the kind of person he was. Everybody felt the same way about him. And it's just crazy how it works, that it's always those people, right? So that was the life change. That was my second life changing moment. That still affects me positive and negatively today. The only reason why I say it's positively affected me, I would give everything up that I've learned to this point. I give it all back. I don't give a fuck what I have or what I think I know. I give it all up. I would never ask to have the knowledge or the wisdom or the enlightenment or whatever it is that I have gained now since he's been gone. I'd give it all up to get him back, kind of thing, you know. And you can't have wishful thinking because it just makes it harder. So, but the negative side to it is I find myself not being happy all the time, because it's almost like, what's there to be happy about? And I get it. There is a lot to be happy about. That's what I'm trying to learn now in my life, is to be happy again. So now, outside of that, 2 years later, I finished my commercial and started training CFI, got my CFI done for helicopter stuff. So commercial license just gives you the ability to go fly for hire, so you can get paid to go fly. I think CFI gives you the ability to teach people how to fly. And then CFII gives you the ability to teach people how to fly instruments. So by flying solely off of reference to the instrument panel or the instruments available, whatever. And then what was really cool is I went from CFI. My wife was living in Dallas. I went to Houston to finish CFI. So she stayed in Dallas. I moved to Houston. And then after I finished CFI, I went and did a flying rice season. So you get to fly like 6 inches over the rice fields, 6 to 12 inches over the rice fields. And you're just going left and right for hundreds of acres, going like 25 miles an hour over the rice, just 6 inches off of it, left and right. Great experience, great skill building experience, great pilot decision making experience, ultimate freedom to make the wrong choice. So what are you going to do when no one's watching, right? And I just made sure that I kept my envelope pretty tight of what I would do if nobody was watching. And I learned a lot. It was a great experience. And then after that, during that time frame, so flying rice is a agriculture job, but it's seasonal. It's 7 days a week for 30 days straight for 3 hours a day minimum. And that's flying. Like you're in the helicopter, blades turning, 3 hours minimum. Most of the time it was probably like a 3.5 hour flight. Got a shit ton of hours out there. It was fucking fun and sick. So, after the crazy experience, this back to what I was talking about earlier with life now is a lot easier going through such experiences in my life, like living in Poland. So whenever I was flying rice, there was this bad tropical storm that came through in Houston. And so all the power went out, and I was living in Katy at the time with my sister. And that's another crazy experience. I'm sure when she comes on, we'll talk about that. And the power went out for 7 days. It was crazy. I mean, like, the thing about saying the power went out for 7 days is people are like, okay, the power went out for 7 days. Okay, think about this. All your food in your fridge it's not frozen anymore. There's no lights on in the house, right? Obviously, the power's out. You can't go to the grocery store because you can't even cook your food because there's no electricity to the burners or like the electrical stove. You literally have to eat out, and you have to find the restaurant that is open. And then if it's open, everybody's there. So that was a really wild experience, and you're taking showers in the dark, blah, 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 whatever, and that was fucking nuts. But I will say, it also showed how uncomfortable people can get from an uncomfortable situation and how their stress management can be better. I enjoyed it. I had no issue with it at all, other than like the food sucked. Like I had to eat out. That shit sucks. But if anything, that means everyone's off their phone. Everyone was in the garage and everyone was having a fucking conversation. That's exactly what I'm trying to do, right? So it was actually a really cool experience throughout that entire process. It was shitty living, but it wasn't that shitty, right? And kind of just reaffirmed that it's not that bad. So that was my my first experience into commercial flying, and then the life outside of the commercial flying. What I was doing was living in my house with my sister. That was a fucking great time for me, at least. She probably didn't like it that much because I was scrutinizing her on everything she did. So I've already told her I'm sorry, and I've realized that I can be better on how I deliver my message, because communication, right? I also live with one of my good friends too. That was pretty cool. Joey. Hopefully Joey comes on the podcast. I don't know. Sometimes he's into this shit and sometimes he's not. We'll see. But that was my first experience in commercial world. Then I went and finished my CFII. After CFII, I get hired on with Veracity out in Pearland. I work in Pearland for 6 months. I then get this on-the-spot interview with Helicopter Institute, which is another wild story. I'm tired of fucking talking about it. So we'll get into how I started working at Helicopter Institute another time. However, I started working. I got an on-the-spot interview, crushed it. That's what they said I did really well. So 6 months later, I got a call. Actually, I think it was like 3 or 4 months later. I got a call asking if I wanted to still continue the route of working for Helicopter Institute. So then, remember, I'm in Houston for a year. About this CFI position that I went to, or like the training of CFI all the way through CFII and started working at Veracity is about a year. So I was away from my wife for about a year, and this company in Dallas was like, "Hey, we have a position for you available if you want to come out here." So took that position, and now I'm back in Dallas. Crazy experiences flying with this company. I've got to fly the Bell 505. I've done plenty of commercial jobs with these guys. I just got to fly with the Army. I was doing instruction with Army LTs and Army W1s that are in flight school right now. Crazy opportunity that I got to fly the 66s out there. I did instrument training with them. And then right before I left for the Army, training in the Army in Florida, we did some Part 135 operations in the 407. So now I'm about to do a 407 check ride. So just enjoying the opportunities at this point now that are coming my way. And it's crazy experience. It's like you can never not be busy with this company, which is a great thing. But definitely fucking nice to have. This is my first weekend off since I've started. I had 2 of my first weekends that I worked with the company off. Ever since then, since April, I've worked every fucking weekend in a good way. Like I've done really fun shit all the time. So really great opportunity to be out here. But I'm glad I get my weekend now. So now I'm on my journey. So now we're to present day, right? And I'll tell you some things. I'm on my journey to find my spiritual sense that I've been on for a while. And I think now I'm just kind of like reiterating that I want to keep following that path. I've been on my religious journey, but it's not necessarily to a church. It's my religious journey to my connection with God, which has been a great journey and enlightening journey throughout the process, as well as financial journey. Becoming financially smart is kind of the goal that I'm trying to have now. The last thing, one of the last things, I guess, because there might be something else. Kind of something I said in the beginning. I want to focus on 1, 2, and 3. Not necessarily 1, 2, and 3, that there's only 3 things that I want to focus on. I want to focus on specific things and not continuously add shit to my plate. So like I said in the other podcast, I'm afraid necessarily, I don't want to add this onto my plate if I can't handle this on my plate. And it's just, I'm going to do this for a couple podcasts and then dip. I don't want to do that. I want this to actually be, like I said, with my goals for a month, 2 hours for 6 years, and see where it takes us. So that's what I'm working on, is focusing on what it is that I'm doing. So I work, helicopter pilot, studying for helicopter stuff. I want to do this podcast, continue my physical and health journey that I feel like I've done pretty well on. Reading 30 minutes a day at a minimum every fucking day. Financial goals that I have in place and I have set, and having all my debt paid off, except for my house, right? Which, I mean, I want to pay off my house, but the point is, I'm not about to put down fucking, I'm not going to pay off my house in a year, you know? So that is now what I'm working on. And, that is me. Maybe what will happen is, I don't know. On the sense of what I was going to say, what will happen is there will be more in-depth conversations and more in-depth stories about this very basic timeline of my life that I just gave you guys. But because I just did an entire run through of 27 years, I'm not going to go in depth, because then it would take me 27 years to fucking talk about what I've gone through. So maybe when somebody comes on, you'll hear these stories again, but a little bit more detailed. So I hope that this is something that I have a challenge for you. If you stayed this far, I have a reward for the first person to say they watched the full video this far. And the only reason why I say there's a reward is because it proves that that's the person that I want to watch my podcast. Somebody that can listen to a conversation for an elongated amount of time. So I do have a reward. Anyways, I won't do all these rewards. I just think that like this is a nice little test to see. I challenge everybody to say if they finish the entire video and watch the entire video. But the first person that says they watched the entire video, and I'm going to fact check you. But the first person that says they watched the entire video, there's a reward. Well, thanks for watching. We'll have a guest on pretty soon, hopefully next week, which will be in about 7 days. And this will probably be my last video that I'm going to upload until the next guest comes on. If they come on next week. If they don't come on next week, then I'm going to drop another video solo and just bullshit like this again. Well, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode. Peace out.